This picture for me is quite instructive. This is a picture of my colleagues, April 2020. This was how the world was. This was our classroom. They were holding meetings, were doing work, ticking the boxes for clients and all of that. So nobody ever thought by February 14th, 2020, that will come to this by April. What am I saying? I'm saying that the world is so short now that there's a battle between long-term planning and short-term planning. So a lot of what we do in life is becoming very unpredictable, and marketers must chart the course to ensure that the brands win. I will try to identify trends. I would not dwell so much on trends because they've been talked about before, but I'll just highlight them. First slide, please. So this happened in less than 18 months in Nigeria. 1,600 cases, by 2,000 deaths, recoveries that, I mean, we don't want to imagine what's happening in India right now. Before this happened, there were predictions that people's corpses will be on the streets of Nigeria or Africa. But thank God, this is as at the last count in Nigeria. Next slide. Now look at this. For the first time in the history of Nigerian marketing spend, digital is the second highest spender in Nigeria. I want to keep quiet a bit so that people can digest it. Now, what it means is this. It means that it's confirmed digital is now a primary medium in Nigeria. It's no longer a secondary medium or a support medium. And globally, these trends, once they start climbing, they do not drop. And I want to make it clear. They are not growing let me put it this way, more instructive. They are growing at the expense of traditional media. So, last year we would have witnessed annual drop in our spend, but what you see is that digital is growing and traditional is flattening out, or to be much more frank, is dropping. Now, that is very instructive, not only to marketers, but it tells you fundamentally that life has changed, life will continue to change, and the train has left the station. The best we can do is to be part of that train and not to obstruct a moving train, because we know the result. So, I will drop this later for more analysis. This is as at November 2020. So, if we kick in December to complete a year, this trend will remain. It can only be a plus for digital, I tell you, for the December spend. Next slide. Look at what's happening. This is the results for bank loans. I mean, it's all gold. I don't want to go deep into it. Massive job losses, salary freezes, consumption is believed to decline at least by 48%. My brother has said it here before, and I'm not just beating a dead horse. Okay? The disposable income is under pressure. And like he said, the target is on essentials. And for us, marketers, the task is, how do we make our brands? Now, please hear me, I'm not talking about product. I'm not talking about products. I'm talking about brands, because it's sustainable variable to build as marketers is your brand, not your product. Your brand is in the mental space of the consumer. So this says, how do I make my brand an essential part of the consumer's life? That's the biggest questions we need to answer. From financial services to pharmaceuticals to FMCGs, the question is, you no longer have direct competition. Carbonated drink is now competition to telco. Telco is now competition to pharmaceuticals. The brick wall has been broken. And so when we think, we don't think luxury, we think survival. I was tempted to put the stats on the deaths that happened in Nigeria. Just in April alone, over 50-something deaths in Nigeria. I mean, all these things that are happening, they affect the psyche of an average consumer. And it also affects how they perceive and how they buy brands. So beyond what the data is saying, we must balance it with strict intelligence, which sometimes science cannot give to you. Are we communicating here? Next slide. So somebody talked about it, I'm not going to dwell about it. Okay? The streaming industry is booming because home culture is big right now. As it were, sponsorships are booming. The question is, how do you take advantage of it? Next slide. And somebody has dwelled on this before, talking about rising virtual. The world has gone virtual, and solutions have also gone virtual. Let's go to the next slide. This is the most important part for me. So what do we do? After seeing, what do we do? What I've done in my presentation is to attach some references, some surveys, which you can go after this, read up. It will give us more insight to what we're going to talk about. Next slide. It says transit consumers into humans. Consumers for the past years have been seen as captors by marketers. They've seen as marketers exploit consumers at the expense of their very precious cash, just to make sure the businesses survive. And so right now, consumers are conscious of that perceived deception from marketers. And they're now saying, now who know us, now we go buy. That's the street language now. Now who know us, now we go buy. How do you know the consumer? It's not by pushing out ads about how comfortable, about how functional your brand is. No. It's about knowing the pains of the consumer. It's about seeing him from a day to day and not seeing him from desktops and market surveys that, like one person said here, that most of the time are surface surveys that do not underpin the real driving motivation of the consumer. So they're saying, see us as human beings. The way you see yourself, see the consumer that way. That you, to a large extent, see them as people who, beyond relating with your brands, relate with all the life-pressing problems that a typical consumer that lives in Nigeria faces. Very important. And even as agencies or marketing communication experts, the task for us right now is to begin to say, how do we start developing new metrics that really open up those things that the consumer really need us to know outside of numbers and numbers and numbers. It calls for real resetting. First of all, my advice to some of my clients is, first of all, we have to unlearn. Behave as if you never went to those big marketing schools, because sometimes they can be very deceptive with big theories and all of that. You need to unlearn. If anybody said that in 2020 that digital spend will be second best, I will not believe as a practitioner. I will not believe. As the last projections for my network, 2029 projections, our projections was that Africa will hit this kind of mark by 2030, where COVID and all of that accelerated everything. And here we are today. So it's important that we see them as they are actually crying out for us to see them as human beings. Next slide. And please, let's try and read out those communications. Kanto, we know it's a repeatable research, now says that 74% believe that brands should not exploit this situation to promote the brand. They are saying, do not use the situation to start selling your brand. It calls for empathy marketing. Empathy marketing, where you are not speaking about the consumer buying your product, but speaking about how will your product or your brand help the consumer, as it were, solve the pressing problems of the today. So what you see is that, for example, there's a research we did, most brands who said nothing during the SARS are not perceived as the same with brands who said something during the SARS. And that takes me to my next slide. So we need to be empathic. What is the tonality of your communication? Is it buy me, buy me, buy me, buy me? What is even the environment, the kind of models that we use? That first picture was quite insightful. If we can now sell pizza on the road, what is it telling us? It tells us that the consumer still wants to feel like a big man, but he needs to do it within his own. Okay? So the language you'll be speaking to him now should be language of hope. Marketing should be more about hope right now. Because we need tons and tons of hope in Nigeria. Tons and tons. There's some acts I had, but I can't read them because of time. Brands must have a voice. Now, I know most brands have their handles. You have your Facebook, your Twitter, and all of that. And what we do is to push out our products, open or dancing, and all of that. Enough of that. The consumers want you to have point of view for topical issues that are happening in Nigeria. I'll give you an example, a global example. Facebook banned our friend. Yes. And they were very emphatic on the reasons why they did so. I think it was last week or this week. The board came and said we still would want to do that for so and so reasons. Now I know brands in Nigeria I want to be very careful. I'm not going to that point. But I'm saying do not keep quiet in issues you know bother so much of your consumers. Use your Twitter handle and say something. Say something. They want to hear from you as human being to another human being. Not that idea of let corporate communication craft a communication and we say that enough of those tabletop communication and marketing models. They have seen through. They have seen through. They know we are not real. And they want real people. So you need to have a voice. The voice ought to be controlled, yes, but you need to have a voice. It's important to say, for example, and without being just for example, or always, for example, sanitary pad for women. I mean, each time sometimes I hear things about women, how this is happening, they should have a voice. Their consumers should know that this is how this brand feels about this thing. It makes them endear to you genuinely, authentically. And it's stronger than those thin campaigns that we craft, okay, with our own desktop insight. They don't have that time now. The psyche of an average Nigerian is not in the best place. So we must speak to them. Next slide. It's a platform world now. You know, I am not against brands going to advertise on non-platforms because they're looking for, as it's where, the audience, an established audience. So they have 10,000, they have 1 million. subscribers. That's fine. However, don't forget that that platform was built over time. How about building your own? How about gradually building your own platform that can become in the next 5 years your own platform for really expressing the brand and owning the consumer? That's where loyalty is highest. So it might be organic, it might be 10,000, it might be 1,000 today. Start it, continue it, because in the next few years, that platform will be big. And that platform might be all you need to actually push out some niche products without doing paid advertising. It was amazing. The last Kanto that was done, many advertising networks were pushed off the front line by the likes of Google and Facebook. You know why? Because they are actually the biggest advertising platform. What we think we know how to do, all they did was they created a platform, and all our money goes into their platform. And they are saying, I can as well go straight to the client and say, let's deal. We're just only respecting protocol. They can boycott the whole agency stuff. And by whether we like it or not, we're going to use them because they have the currency that everybody still respects, which is numbers. So I advise you to build your own platform. Start building it. I'm not saying don't buy into established ones, but understand that your own is important on the long run to establish genuine and authentic, loyal customer base. Very important for you. Next slide. I think this has been overemphasized. So we know that online is a marketplace. We've seen that, so I don't want to bother this. Next slide. This for me is the most interesting one. So COVID has disrupted the path to purchase. All those funny graphs we used to draw, path to purchase, it goes here, it goes here. All those things are not. If you're still using them, you are in old school. You are not going to reach that consumer. I listen to you. The essentials they buy, most of them they now buy online. So how do you now draw your new point to purchase? How do you draw it? It's home to mobile. So it's like this. It's now so short. No longer leave home, drive through the road, see a billboard. All those things have been scrapped, and they will continue to be scrapped. That's why I said unlearn. You need to unbundle those learnings that sometimes make us feel superior than the client, than the consumer. But we need the consumer to buy our product. So when our product is not selling, we're asking ourselves what's happening. What's happening is that we are far from the consumer. The consumer has moved on. He buys whatever he or she wants to buy, and you can continue to do your advertising. So we better know them. See, every minute in the typical Nigerian traffic, you see these motorcycle guys. They are the new guys, they are the new kid in block. I'm telling you, marketers, that is a veritable advertising platform. What are you doing with it? What are you doing with it? You go into some estates, you see them driving like birds. They are delivering stuff to people. That is a veritable experiential marketing platform. Use them because they take you to the last mile. They take you to the last mile. And as long as mobile penetration continues to increase, as long as data continues to drop, this trend will continue to grow. So first mover advantage says that he who does it first and does it well benefits from every other person who jumps into it later. What do you do with them? How do they deliver stuff? How do they know when they are delivering stuff? These are brand ambassadors that we need to explore now as marketers. Next slide. More than ever before, incentives is needed. If disposable income is dwindling, how do we reward? How do we tie reward and incentives into our communication in such a way? Look at what influencers are doing with tick this, click on this, and I give you 10,000, I give you 5,000. If you see the result of those things they do, it will marvel you. Because people need this big cash. They need it. So we need to integrate these things creatively. I used to hear before growing up, in this job that big brands don't do promotions. Big brands don't do that. Promos are indications of a dying brand. It's a lie. It's a lie. If a pizza can be on the traffic, you better. And see, there's something about truth and fact. Is that if you sleep on the facts, time will tell you the bitter truth. By the time volume and value share is going this way, you will know that you need to really look for the truth. So we need to tie incentives and tie it creatively, such a way. Next one. The power of data. I think this has been emphasized. And this for me is the last time I'm saying, marketers, please emphasize conversion marketing. Enough of those flowering like that agencies glue for you and all of that. Data can now make you tie your whatever you do in form of activation, in form of TV, radio, digital especially, to tie it to actual conversion. How many of them bought or will buy? Get leads, track them. And you can really get what we call return on investment. Because sometimes we just call return on investment, there's no empirical way then. Now there is an empirical way to know how many people that bought this my product because of this campaign. It's possible. Just talk to the right people. Last slide, and I close with this. Please be where the world is going and not be far, because it's dangerous. Thank you.